Hey everyone, and welcome to our devlog for our indie game Kingsblood.
In this episode I would like to talk about the main UI of our game. While we are quite satisfied with some elements, for example the panel in the middle, other elements like the header and the footer seem to be very blocky. So for inspiration we looked into other games. Here you see Civilization 6. Most of the UI elements are rather small and rather subtle. The focus is definitively on the world map itself, and a lot of the elements don't have a square form, but they have a round form. Also, the header is very thin, comparable to our header, and some ideas like the notifications on the right side are pretty much equal to what we have. Now, we have some dissents in our team about how we want to approach our UI. I myself would love to have ornaments and decorations. Dominic, for instance, prefers a very clean UI. The problem about decorations is when you start with decorations, you need to have them everywhere. So for a self-funded project like ours, it probably makes more sense to go with a rather clean version. I mean, here you can see an experiment of myself where I tried to paint a UI element. Not that great, so like I said, going with a clean version is probably better. I also had experiments where I tried to create a UI with a Blender, and this was like 2 or 3 months ago, so you see we struggled with this topic for quite some time. So once again I tried to tackle this problem because, like I showed before, I really feel that the main UI is too blocky. That is also some of the criticism we got from the comments, that people like the general feel of the game, they like the coloration of the UI, they like some of the elements of the UI, but in general the UI is often a little bit criticized. So what I did was take a screenshot of the map and paint a mock-up, or try to create a mock-up, and I tried to incorporate some of the things which I have observed within other games. So first of all, you see the 5 circular shapes at the bottom of the map. So these will be different menus for your quest log, your journal, your achievements, and overview over the allied cities. And in the middle, last but not least, there will be the menu for your own city, your own outpost. Additionally, I added panels for the time, the calendar, a circular shape for the turn counter, a little panel for the turn count itself, and the top area, and I use for that panels which are transparent with rounded corners. Basically these panels are there to also group the 5 buttons at the bottom, and I think the transparency is very cool because it adds a little bit of texture. If you just have plain colors, it looks a bit stale, but with transparency you always see the background, so you have always a little bit of texture. Quite a bit fast forward, I also added some icons, so now you can better understand what these circles mean, and that is basically the mock-up for a possible UI. I'm not sure if this will be the final variant, but this is, I think, a mock-up which looks very clean but also kind of elegant. Now comes the hard part, translating this UI into reality. And just let me tell you that within this week we did not finish what we started right here, but at the end of the video you can probably see where it is heading. So first of all, we copied our main scene, so we don't destroy anything of what is working already. So we had no intent of just breaking everything with no way of return. So we made a copy of our main scene, and then especially we tried to focus on the bottom elements. And the major or the most important part of the footer are the circular buttons, right? So the circular buttons consist of 3 elements. They consist of a background. Here we thought that we should maybe use the colors of our main UI. Then they have an inner circle, and then they have an icon symbol. And here you can see us creating the first icon. I think we used this book icon we had from an icon pack, and we colored it, and we made 3 versions of that icon. So the version you see right here is the normal version, and later on we also created a version which should flare up when you hover over the icon, and we thought this version should be a bit more bright. And within Unity you not necessarily have to do that, because Unity can create hover colors themselves, but we thought maybe it is better that we do it. So here you see us creating this version, and then we thought you also need a 3rd version. This is basically the version when you select an element. So if you select a menu like the castle menu, so your own home, then there should be an indication what menu you have currently selected. And we thought that maybe a blue outline would look quite cool. And you can see that right here. So this is what we thought might look cool as an activated element. And all the outlines, as you see right here, are transparent. The degree of transparency currently is 75%. We most likely, if we stay with that design, will pull that down by a notch, probably towards 50%. As a second placeholder, we created a crown symbol and colored it, and then we edited the UI prefab, the blocky UI prefab you saw before, and put everything together and loaded it into the main UI. And here you see this first experiment within the game. I think the buttons are still quite big, but I feel everything already looks a bit more elegant. You can also see that I hover over the buttons, though there is nothing implemented yet. These are just the standard technologies Unity brings along. Still, there are a lot of these flat areas which basically don't add anything and take away from the view on the world map. So we continued by getting rid of these flat areas and make them more along the lines of the mock-up I created. This is also not finished yet, but well, it's just an approach. Now that process, you see that all the buttons are shifted too much to the top, so what we had to do next was also to drag them down, which once again frees the main view on the world map of not used space, so to say. And once again, to be more alongside of the mock-up, we exchanged the size of the individual buttons, so that the center button is a little bit bigger, because that is the button for the home menu, which is the most important menu. And the other menus, they are not that important, they are shrunk down a little bit. So now everything gets a bit more minimalistic, like I said, smaller, still big enough also that you could play the game on a tablet and just click on it with your fingers. But everything, like a bit similar to Civilization, is slimmed down, cleaner, and yeah, if you ask me, the UI now does not distract so much. Now, this is what we have created in 1 week, so it takes a lot of work and is not finished yet, but this is what we've came up with, and hopefully within the next weeks we will continue on that front, and maybe we'll have a very clean UI in the next upcoming weeks. So at this point I would have loved to show you a finished UI. Unfortunately, it takes quite a lot of work, so what you've seen right now is our current status. So we have a cool design right now, I feel. It is quite minimalistic, it does not take and distract too much from the view on the world map, and it looks kind of clean, so we don't have to use ornaments. Because like I told you before, painting ornaments is quite hard for us, since we don't have an artist as a
true core member. And yeah, hopefully within the next weeks we can supply some more insights. I still feel like, and I still hope this was an interesting vlog, as we've shown you all the design decisions. And to be honest, I feel like creating UIs is one of the hardest tasks. So all the programming is doable, but creating something beautiful, that is really something hard. Anyways, hope you enjoyed this vlog, and if you haven't done it yet, subscribe to this channel and tune in next week.